sting on the interior, but it leads to Sean Zawadzki, Big East Defensive Player of the Year from the midfielder spot. You know he's willing to work. He'll spray balls 30, 40 yards left and right. How about Dante Pavar get the offense going? Jamie Clark and the Washington Huskies, they don't make any changes either. It ain't broke, don't fix it. Tevez up top, Rosales on the outside, Ostrom coming off the left back spot. I look at Nick Scardina, though, and how much of a presence can he maintain on the right, because he's going to be matched up with the aforementioned Will Sands.
Here we go. Second time in 3 years, Georgetown to the College Cup. The first time ever for the Huskies. Matt Thompson is our official in the middle, and we are underway. Semifinal number 2. The winner will get Clemson, 2 Eastern, on Sunday on ESPNU. Kieran Sargent plays it out to touch. Freshman center back, deputizing for Daniel Wu, the senior local product from Cary, North Carolina, out injured. Sargent has played the last 4 games. Wu was injured in the Big East Tournament semifinal. What does Wu's absence mean for this Georgetown team, Devin?
Well, he asked me that the day he goes down. I'd say something different because Sargent has been so good on the back line. You know, there's a constant confidence that you get out of a player like Daniel Wu, some regard as one of the better center backs in the entire country. I know that Brian Weiss does. But to be honest, it gives you a different dimension when Daniel Wu's not there. And that's not to say you want to lose a player to an injury, but Daniel Wu, they don't attack as much with Daniel Wu as they do with Kieran Sargent. Sargent's willing to step off the back line. Daniel Wu, you see the 17 games this season, hasn't been able to make his way back in. So expect the rotation out of Sands, but also Sargent, because he will step up into that pocket depending on what the midfield 2 in front of him look like.
Wu scored a goal in that 2019 final that Georgetown won in penalties against UVA. Senior, a leader, but Sargent is now deputizing quite well. First ball played in. 18 goals scored this year for the Huskies on set pieces in the last 18 matches. They are dangerous there. Georgetown handled the first one well. And they'll always have long throws as well. Charlie Ostrom with the long throw. Looking to Ryan Saylor. He gets the flick on, and Georgetown's able to handle it and pop back in, and falls to Giannis Nikolitis. One of the best goalkeepers in the country. Brian Weiss, one of the best coaches in the country, again, won that 2019 title. 16th season here at Georgetown has built them into a national perennial power. 9 NCAA tournaments in 10 years. He's done outstanding jobs of being a player at Dartmouth, assistant at Stanford, assistant Notre Dame. Great pedigree. As you have a great pedigree too, as well, Devin Kerr. What is your download of this match?
Box him out in the midfield. One of the biggest differences you're going to get out of that 19 to 21 title-winning squad in terms of style of play is they don't really play number 10. And so in the absence of a Jacob Montez or any other presence in there, what they do is they'll take their outside midfielders, press them to the inside, and they allow Zawadzki and Pavar to be on the ball a lot more. So they basically recreated in the aggregate Moneyball style.
Billy Bean would appreciate that shout out. First corner of the match for Georgetown, getting going the other way. And Jamie Clark on the other side, his 11th season at University of Washington. First time getting into the College Cup. He's the 3-time Coach of the Year in the conference, 9th NCAA tournament. Helped build this program. Was an outstanding player at Stanford. Played under his father, Bobby Clark. We'll talk more about that. But he was an All-American, went on to be drafted in the second round of MLS draft back in San Jose. Now applying his try to trade as a coach. Low ball driven in. Almost flicked on by Zawadzki there. He gets up a little worse for the wear. Pitching his giddy up. Georgetown loves a quick restart, quick throw in. All back in play. Dante Pavar, first touch for the midfielder of the year for the Big East. And also a Mac Herman semifinalist, number 8 there on the ball for the second straight year. Second straight year, he's the midfielder of the year in the conference. And Notre on the ball. Georgetown likes to play, likes to possess the ball, control the game, the ball at their feet.
We talked a lot in that first matchup, Alan, between Clemson and Notre Dame about shape shifting and what that was going to look like. The true presence for Georgetown and how active they're going to be resides on those two guys in the ball right now, Zawadzki and Polvara. They got to get them going and maintain confidence throughout an entire match. Otherwise, this truly does not work. I mentioned the boxing out. It all runs through the double holding midfielders and what that looks like in the matchup, because for Jamie Clark and the Washington Huskies, second part of Devin's download, what they bring to the table is transitional movements. And so when the two holding midfielders come high, it's a lot of space in behind. That's when Tevez and Miglietti go to work. I mentioned they were probably one of the best in the country. Jamie Clark's going to be yelling at me because he's saying they are the best in the country. Remember, I looked at him, I said, you've got good presence on the back line, good look on the outside, good height. Your boys in the middle, very confident on the ball, two strikers up top. What are you missing? I said, hopefully nothing. Hopefully we can just continue to transition and go score goals the way we have all season long.
We'll find out if they can do that. They've been a prolific scoring team. Fourth in the nation at 2.67 goals per game. They finished second in the Pac-12 behind Oregon State. Slightly controversial because of COVID. They didn't get to play an extra game. Oregon State got the opportunity to play more than one game. Now, the Beavers did beat them and drew them. So even in a head-to-head situation, and they fell 3 points shy. They weren't winning it anyway. But I know the guys were a little hard done by that. They made a point of saying that, hey, we play one last game.
On the game that they did lose, the only blemish, down to 9 men.
Yeah.
Two couple red cards in that game, and they don't really feel like they were played off the park. I agree with them. Watch the body of work that they put forth all season. That's why I said to you that, at least in my humble opinion, obviously don't get a vote on the committee, never have, never will. But these are the two best teams in college soccer. And Washington, they wanted that opportunity to grab that number 1 seed. Didn't get a chance.
Will Sands getting forward from his left back spot as always. Joe DeLuz, 28 on the ball as well. Back and forth between them. Sargent. Center back up in the attack. Polvara. Looking for Stefan Stojanovic. Good step by Achille Robin. Transfer from Bowling Green and native of France. DeLuz. Sands, his twin brother, James Sands, plays for NYCFC. We're playing in the MLS Cup tomorrow. We'll be on ABC 3 Eastern, but also part of the U.S. national team pool. Both grew up in that academy together alongside Dante Polvara, number 8 in the middle, Gio Reyna, and a number of other studs. That team was ridiculous. They won back-to-back National Development Academy championships.
Sisters also pretty successful in their own right at Division III level. Lizzie Farabodine and Kate won 2 NCAA titles. This is the best thing that I saw about that, and all the guys coming out of NCFC and the youth products. There's Will Sands, James Sands, of course, you just mentioned. Polvara's in there. Velko Petkovic. Dear Lord, the things that he's done for Pitt. Gio Reyna, heard of him?
Yeah, Gio and Joe Scally are doing their stuff in Germany.
Not so
right
bad, right?
Yeah.
There's actually 13 different players. Talked about it last game. 13 different players. And the worst that they did for themselves was play Division I soccer in the NCAAs. I mean, that's not bad. And I looked at Dante Polvara and asked him about it. And he just kind of looked over with a little smirk and said, yeah, we were good.
We were pretty good. We were pretty good.
Only team to ever win back-to-back national titles at the DA level in U19s.
Christian Soto's got his head up. For Emmanuel Rosales. Rosales' pass picked off. And a good opportunity for Georgetown in transition. Kyle Maris ran out of room. Looking for Tevez, and he's offside. And Tevez back-to-back hat tricks in the NCAA tournament. One against Portland in their opening game, then against Indiana in a 3-2 game. It was absolutely thrilling. That's never been done in the NCAA tournament. Back-to-back hatties.
Those are those little looks, though, that you will get out of Tevez. 3v1 still slides in behind. Interesting to note that Georgetown doesn't have a very tall back line. That's something you want to keep an eye on when you've got a small striker, and I mean that very politely at 5'7" for the Hawaiian native. But Dylan Tevez, he's so crafty, and he'll find those little spaces to work in between the lines. But because of the fact that he doesn't have to win his major aerial battles, a little bit easier on the 9 tonight. Some food for thought, by the way, as we're waiting for them to get back going. And referee has a early Christmas gift for Nielsen on the back line for Georgetown. Here's your shin guard. Check out just outside of the center circle. That's Nick Scardina. I mean, they play very narrow at times, and this is the matchup that I talked about because of the fact that Will Sands comes so high. He's got to cover a lot of ground. When they invert the outside midfielder, then Will Sands comes up. You have a guessing game of, do I go with the initial runner or do I catch the one on the touchline?
Scardina tried to play it over the top of Tevez. Doesn't come to him. Sargent playing a long ball, looking to get it over Burns' head, doesn't come down. Scardina on it. To Rosales. Out to Ostrom. Ostrom, Pac-12 Defensive Player of the Year last year, first team All Pac-12. A number of these guys were first team, second team, or honorable mention in the Pac-12. As you can imagine, it's a great year they had. Soto on the ball. One of those honorable mentions this year. Last year was first team all league.
These guys just sat down on the chessboard and really decided if they want to move all their pawns yet, right?
Yeah. Oh,
slowly moving into this game.
Sands undercut. Heavy challenge. Cosa Rienzi up underneath him. Local crowd came down from D.C. Also from Washington, though. We had a sellout for the earlier game. Obviously, to set some people have headed for the exits, licking their wounds, some celebrating for a Tigers fan. But still a great crowd on hand. Leather backfield, well read by Rocha. Sam Fowler, the keeper, good distribution out to Burns, but he can't bring it down. David Mullen, the near side AR, says it will be Georgetown ball. What have you seen so far? About 15 minutes in, Doug.
Georgetown has moved away from their traditional looks going forward. We talked how they will bring their outside mids in and really try and create an overload on the inside. Thought it would be more difficult, at least in the early goings, for someone like Christian Soto and Cosa Rienzi, but instead they've left the 10 in there, and they're really only bringing one outside midfielder in, so they haven't been able to connect as much as they'd like to. And when they go side to side, it's the weak side midfielder that allows them to build, but the far side one is matched up. Washington doing a real good job defensively at understanding where those runs come from, specifically Scardina on this right side. He hasn't been tested at all.
Bovar's pass deflected, but makes it to the feet of Stojanovic. Sargent takes the space, then lays it back to Zawadzki. Switch to Sands and can't complete the pass. Georgetown has had, you talk to their fans behind the goal here, making their presence felt. This is the Big East regular season champions. You see that they're building through the course of the year. They take a picture after every game, and the fans that stick around, the supporters. Look at how it's grown throughout the Big East tournament, into the quarterfinals, and a lot of them made the trip down here from D.C. to support their boys. There will be a second College Cup. First one back in 2019.
How about the travel schedule, by the way? On the bus, down here, finish the game, turn around, head back, basketball match, in hopes that they're then going to turn around and catch the red eye on the bus for the championship game on Sunday.
Nothing I love better than you just call it a basketball match. This is great because people always like, let's call it a match or nil. Let's just all be fans. I don't care what it is. We're America. Let's say we're Americanize the sports match game, whatever. So you want to call a basketball game a match? I'm in. All right. Well, you got Syracuse Georgetown at noon. That'll be an interesting game to say the least. Not what it once was, but a big game nonetheless. With those kids, yes, are going back for, and if they need to come back on Sunday, the bus will be geared up and ready to go to get them back here. Agard's pass way too heavy for Zawadzki. He's able to track it down there.
I'd love to be able to operate on that no-sleep schedule. We do. We just don't want to. It's a difference.
I can pull a rabbit out of a hat every now and again. Yeah. These 6 a.m. flights all the time and whatnot.
What you will notice defensively for the Huskies is on the inside, right there. The two holding midfielders. They don't vary. Stay left and right. They don't really step out of that. They have a comfort zone that they operate within because of this right there. They expect them to go win those balls and then spring the outside midfielders going the other direction.
Big tackle by Paul there to take it off of Scardina's foot. Stop the transition. Watsky's in the pocket. Bigger doesn't play him. Skips it over, and what an opportunity for Sands, but he's going to want that one back.
One of the more aggressive players you're going to get in traditional Hoya blue. They weren't great tonight, but he plays such an advanced role and doesn't lack for confidence. Just got to put this one on frame. Early game jitters, recognize that this was probably not one of his better efforts. Great build by Georgetown, though.
Was he trying to play that back across?
No.
It seemed like he was hit. It was just that bad of a miss?
Yes.
Okay.
He knows it. I mean, you could see his hands go to his head immediately. First of all, there's no one there that he could take enough off the ball to put out in front of. Yeah. And number two, sometimes down as a player, it's kind of like you play basketball. You're so wide open, right? That you get in your own brain. And that was the situation where even though there were bodies in front of him, that was his to lose.
Yep. Good comp. Appreciate that. I understand it intimately. Sands' first team all-conference this year, third team all-conference last year, the junior from Rye, New York. Will Palvaro win this foot race? He does. He strokes it back out to Sands. Palvaro's pretty easy on the eye. He's in some space. They don't play him. He just has an ease about him and flow about him in the game, which makes it look so simple.
I'm about to make a comparison, and people are going to think I'm crazy. And I'm just talking about the way that he carries himself, not the actual physical skill set. It reminds me of Paul Pogba.
Oh,
you know, the long legs, the big frame, just kind of cruises along. Never really feels like he's going that fast, but just calming presence in the midfield.
Late to Tevez, he pulls a shot. It's a really good call. The game looks easy and just kind of flows. Like that. And Lucas Meek is about to check in. He was one of the players that featured in this match in 2019, the quarterfinal matchup. One of the 7 Huskies to play in that game. Meek comes in for Rosales. The junior from Washington. He made it very clear, and I know a lot of people are watching in the Seattle area and the Washington area, how much they want to win this for Seattle. A lot of these guys are from Washington, almost half the roster, and they take pride in where they're from and the support they've gotten all year. They want to win this for all those folks back home. As Sands is working, finds to lose. Ricochets off, Sands out for the goal kick.
It's not just a pride thing, within the squad and the brotherhood that you hear so many teams talk about. Whether it's false pretense or not is another argument. But the surrounding area. A lot of these guys grew up playing against each other. Yeah. UW players and then the Sounders organization, Crossfire Premier, boys coming out of Hawaii. They know each other very well. The way that the former GA system now, all the academies around the country are set up. It's also interesting to note that you have guys like Lucas Meek, who just came on, Orion Crowley, who they were starters last year.
Yeah.
So these were the guys that were regularly appearing in the 11, but they don't have those attitudes or carry themselves that they think they're better than the shirt, because it's all about the shirt. They want to have success, and that's all that matters to them.
Scardina looking back post. Off the line comes Nicopolidis, outstanding keeper in his own right, back to two-time Big East goalkeeper of the year. Great pedigree. His father, Antonis Nicopolidis, was on that legendary Greek team, the 04 Euro Championship team. He came from nowhere. He couldn't score on them. Didn't matter. They weren't the most fun to watch, but they went into the history books, and his father is a legend there. And Giannis has carved out quite a legend here at Georgetown with his great performances through the years.
Talk about the fact you just made reference to an 04 team that had a Ronaldo on it that's still playing. He was on that Portugal squad, right?
Squad, yeah. That's bananas. That dude doesn't.
It's also science.
Yeah. He's an alien.
You know, he's got movements like his dad. That big, commanding presence, very vocal. This is what you want out of a goalkeeper, though. It's not the fact that you're willing to come make this save. It's that 15, 20 minutes into a title match, you're going to come 8, 10 yards off your line and really say, boys, I'm commanding this. This is mine.
Missed a few games this year due to injury. Athens, Greece is his hometown. Said his dad talks to him after a lot of matches. But some little pointers, mentality things. Of course, trying to help his son improve. Crowd making him feel it a little bit. Sam Fowler back there in front of the Hoya Blues, they call themselves. Supporters group. Pass almost left short. Fowler's off his line to get rid of it. Argument that it should be Georgetown, though. And yes, no time for the referee gets in the mix, changes it up. Brian Weiss talking to Daniel Ratchey, the fourth official. We'll check. Ball goes out of bounds. I'll tell you about hoops coming your way on Saturday afternoon. Doubleheader, Kansas and Mizzou. Mizzou has been struggling, and Kansas is really good. At Allen Fieldhouse, 3:15 Eastern. Then old school rivals square off in South Bend. Number 10 Kentucky takes on Notre Dame. They split the last 6 matchups. Notre Dame struggled a little bit to start the year. Kentucky's young again, but they got a lot of great transfers and talented. Put the last 6 games back to 2004. Both games on ESPN and the ESPN app. Starts at 3:15 because at 3 o'clock will be the Jimmy V speech from the 1993 ESPYs. Whether you've seen it or not, tune in and watch it. And as he says in the speech, have your emotions moved to tears every day as a goal of the day. You will do that, no doubt, if you tune in to listen to Jimmy V speak. About 30 minutes from where he became a legend at NC State, leading to the 1984 national title on Harvard. Ball played in. Nicopolidis off his line, gets a punch on it. Soto. Flick on. Sargent will be able to clear. Stoyanovich. To the loose. Soto cleared out once the foul, no call. Georgetown making a sub. Zach Riviere checks in the match. He's coming in for Linares. Riviere scored already in this tournament against Georgia State. That was their first game, their opening game returning. He's played now his 70th match for Georgetown. He was part of that 2019 team. Played in the final against UVA. Played in the quarterfinal against UW. Oh, Gio Miglietti just took out Will Sands. They're playing on, and Sands is down. Miglietti scored both goals in their last match to get them to this point, beating St. Louis in the quarterfinal. And Sands is up now, though, limping a bit.
One of the things that the Huskies are trying to do right now, Dallin, is because of the unwillingness of the Hoyas to overcommit on the outside. They talked about how they're willingly bringing one of those outside mids to the inside. Defensively, you're set up for success. If you don't overcommit, the space isn't in from behind. So transitionally, the Huskies haven't been able to move as quickly as they'd like, and they're trying to connect in other areas.
A lot of contact over here. See Chris Haggard take out Christian Soto. Did not card him. Whenever Matt Thompson stopped the match and walked over, I wondered if he was going to. A little hip check. Good to see no card there.
Similar to the first match, if you're going to let him play, just let him play.
Yeah.
Any player in the field is going to want to know what your intentions are to begin with. Just like a player, you look at the referee and try and get away with stuff. And I'm not saying that situation, but little tugs here, shoulder charges. How much relief are you going to give me in these situations? And so far, the answer is a plenty.
Haggard knows these guys pretty well. Chris Haggard, sophomore from San Diego, actually played in the Sounders Academy, where a lot of these guys are from. Huskies crew, as we mentioned already. Their team all Big East this year.
That Sounders team that he played on was one that rivaled the NYCFC team that we were talking about, 2019 team that won a bunch of things. They won the national title, but then Adidas Cup, Surf Cup, talking about some of the biggest youth tournaments in the nation.
They're striding forward a bit. Sands battling with Burns, a couple all-league players. Sands may win this battle. That's a deep pass into Deleuze, but can't connect. Falls to Kovara. No ball put in. Saranovich tries to turn. A lot of contact. Haggard asking for a foul, none given. That's for a penalty, I should say. Soto in some space. Back to Ryan Saylor. That's player of the year in the Pac-12. He's got 6 goals, the big center back. And we mentioned them on set pieces. He comes forward, super senior, man. First 4 years of college, he played 13 games. Talk about development. Last 2, he's been an all-league player, second team, first team, now defensive player of the year. 4, top of your screen right now in black. Tevez, good control. Still Tevez. And she's the hat-trick hero. 2 hat-tricks in this NCAA tournament. He wanted to give it a go. She didn't let that go. Passed it off, I should say.
No, not the way that he's been exerting himself on the offensive side. The steps. When you got a guy that's running hot, let him go. Yeah. Right? Just continue to let him go. And if you don't let him try and find some momentum within a game, that's when he can start to fall off of it. Pavar on one end, good ball played in. Watch this turn. Beautiful turn by Stojanovic. Just loses the footing underneath him. Got to give a little credit to Ryan Saylor. Not a lot of contact, but that shoulder just in behind the striker pushes him off the play.
All driven in.
This is one of my favorite things about the Huskies is they won't overly press you. It's intermittent, but the pressure is constant. A lot of times you'll see it from 2 strikers up top. They try to shift over, push you into a corner. The 2 flat midfielders are where it's really the unlocking point, but at the same point in time, they're the focal point of their defensive success because if they don't both come quickly, then the space is there to easily play out of. So far, they've gotten into it. But if you watch some of the goals that they've given up throughout the season, it's when the two guys on the inside, Christian Soto and Kalani Kosa-Rianzi, don't rotate over quick enough, and that's where you look to someone like a Sawatsky, a Sands, or a Hagar to get involved.
His header did not get enough on it, so Tevez scooped it up. There's Meek. Ostrom couldn't win that battle down the wing. Goes out for a goal kick. Top of the NYCFC youth team. Well, their senior team's got a pretty big day tomorrow. 26th MLS Cup, 3 Eastern, noon Pacific on ABC and the ESPN app. Timbers against NYCFC from one of the hallowed grounds of American soccer, Providence Park. Portland looking for their 3rd cup in 7 years. NYCFC looking for their 1st in franchise history.
Always wanted to cut the wood.
Oh, yeah. Timber Joey.
Yep.
Yeah.
Here's for Georgetown, number 9, Orlando Morris. Replacing number 13, Riviere.
Couple subs. Paul comes in. Elijah Paul, comes in. Arizona native. He comes in for Gio Micheletti. Again, the goal scorer in the last match had a brace to put them through against St. Louis. Georgetown subs on Marlon Tabora. And had a hat trick himself against Providence in their 4-1 win in the 2nd game of this tournament. Tabora tries to scoop it up, doesn't get there in time. Scardina, back heel picked off. Tabora came in for Haggard. Ball goes out, goal kick. Crossing 10 o'clock on the East Coast here in Cary, North Carolina. 2nd semifinal of the 2021 College Cup alongside Devin Kerr. I'm Dallin Cuff, 0-0 through 30 minutes here at Salem Soccer Stadium. In the 1st game of the semifinals, Clemson took down fellow ACC foe, Notre Dame in penalties. It was 1-1 in the first half. That stayed the same way after 110 minutes, and in the end, the Justin Malou final kick put the Tigers through to their 1st College Cup final for the first time since 2015. Their keeper, George Marks, was outstanding and made the critical save in penalties, as well as saves in overtime to keep his team in the game. Devin, I think we both coaches expected this to be an up and down transition game with a lot happening. Hold that thought for a second. Nope. It really hasn't panned out that way.
They've equalized themselves and what their best assets are on the field. The lack of rotation on the outside and the way that traditionally the Hoyas like to build isn't there. Interestingly enough, defensively, they've locked themselves down at times into that flat 4-4-2, which is what you get out of the Washington Huskies and Jamie Clark's squad when they try and build. The 2 central midfielders haven't been on the ball that much. They don't commit a lot going forward. You'll see them sit deeper, especially with the way that the 2 outside backs like to attack, but they haven't got that going because of the fact that 2 midfielders are sitting back. It's, I mentioned in the Clemson Notre Dame game, those guys at certain points in time, they look tentative. They were afraid to make a mistake. These guys just know they don't have that margin for error. It's not about being afraid to make a mistake. They just know where the biggest threats come from.
Oh, this was almost a threat. Elijah Paul went at it. The Arizona native, part of the Barca Academy for a while, in the Real Salt Lake Academy. San Francisco transfer. Almost caught Nicopolitas off his line. Chris Lay got his first touch on the ball, though, 23 in gray. Couldn't maintain possession. Chested down nice by Tevez. Paul wins a corner. Again, Washington dangerous on set pieces.
Towers that are. All three of them haven't really mentioned Burks that much yet, but watch him as the target down on the back post. Lethal when given the opportunity to Shield Robin and Ryan Saylor. Three different options you got to follow here in traffic.
Saylor right above the penalty spot, that long hair, 6'5" frame. And swinging ball back post. Burns can't keep it down.
The fans are trying to stay in it. They're asking for something, right?
Yep.
They want a little spark to get them going here.
It is funny, the first game with Clemson and Notre Dame, I thought would be a more cagey affair. A good early goal would help that game, and it did. We got an early goal, 11th minute. Luis Felipe Fernandez Salvador scored. Jack Glenn equalized from the spot, almost given away there. The 21st minute. It's a very fun first half. I thought that would be a cagey game. This game will be up and down game, not the case. Bavara dispossessed. Close to the ends, he ran out of room. He pays it back to Bavara.
Every single time they look to play a ball, it's marked up.
Riviere almost brings it down. He does, and it's just wide. Great effort by the senior, and almost broke the dead.
Charlie Ostrom gets away with one here. He looked over the shoulder and then lost where the runner was coming from. And to be fair, it's just a really good take by Zach Riviere. That pace from that distance to drop that right in front of yourself and give yourself the opportunity to go on frame. Very difficult to do.
Gave the Georgetown crowd a little life behind the goal there. In response, the Huskies fans are about it right behind their bench. Come to their feet as well. Boats are dispossessed, but they're going to call a foul on Paul there.
Now indicated against the Huskies.
The bigger concern here for Brian Weiss and the Hoyas is the lack of the ability to not just get Polvar on the ball or Zawadzki, but together. Haven't seen them combine a lot here, and with a lot of credit to what's been going on the inside. But again, they like that right flank right now, one-on-one.
Swift tried to lay it to Zawadzki, but wasn't enough on it. Riviere's pass. Gardina's and Akers in space in front of us, but there's no way you're going to make that pass from there. Professional foul, or
That's your last warning.
That's what that is.
He just kept going and going. Good job pushing the tempo here. This is where they find success. You know, the initial touch coming up through the midfield. To your point, Scardina, acreage of real estate out in front of them. But there are also times, just because you can hit a ball doesn't mean you should.
Yeah.
And I've talked to you about that before, that's a really good look if you can get it over here. It's probably the most difficult look out of anything that you can play in front of you. So it's easier to just continue the movement in transition, because even if you do turn it over, you also reset your defensive line. And they've been pinned back a little bit here, where not overly threatened, but the Hoyas have been able to go side to side and get to reset yourself, push a little higher, and fight back.
All floated in. Paul tries to attack it. Scardina's going to put it back in the mixer. Incomplete. It's well off his line. He growls it. And just started going quickly the other way. Not his best distribution. Well done.
Oh, he's in.
Oh, great opportunity. But Burns read it well. Stojanovic was there. Marlon Tabora almost unlocked this thing on his own with that pass.
The way that he's been playing, Tabora, over the last 6 games, it does make you wonder a little bit why they haven't changed to having him in the 11, but to have the mental capacity to be that player that consistently comes off the bench, a lot of guys can't do that. So it can actually be more detrimental to take someone like a Hagar. And I'm not saying that he's been bad, but you take someone like that who's used to being in the lineup, you put him on the bench, that can mess with their psyche.
Yeah.
As opposed to DeBoer, who just continues to show up.
Again, Tapora had the hat trick in that Providence game. Hagar, conversely, hasn't scored in the campaign. And Brian Weiss was honest, and we could use a little more from Hagar in the offensive third of things.
The best part about Washington defensively. You just turn it into a 4-2-4. Two strikers drop in. Scardina's come high. Same thing for Lucas Meek on the outside. It's a lot of work off the ball. But again, you're removing the two best players from Georgetown, and that's the reason why they haven't had a lot of looks going forward.
Stoyanovich has played back to the floor. Scardina left it low. Burns. It off delay. Gets back to Pavara. Zwatsky. Ocha.
I think these guys know each other. I mean, it's the flow between the two teams as you go one way or the other. They're mirror images. You're just tracking all the runners, and Brian Weiss and Jamie Clark, good friends for a long period of time. We talked about the influence of his father, Bobby, and what he's been able to do for the game in this country.
Sands tries to bring it down off his chest. And kept in play. You mentioned Bobby obviously played at Aberdeen, great player there, but coaching. Coach Brian Weiss at Dartmouth, Stanford, Notre Dame. He's got his fingerprints all over this Final Four. More familial relations here. Ronan Dillo checks in, the freshman from West Hartford, Connecticut. That's him at 2. Then at 12, in the 2012 Cup, because his dad was one of the greatest players ever here. His mom went to Georgetown as well, but his dad top 10 in the school's history in terms of points and goals. His parents are both here. Ronan's grown up in this program. He's a little kid, as you just saw. Now he has a chance to play in his first college cup. Comes in for Stoyanovich. Washington also made a sub as well. Todd Briscoe comes in for Rienzi, or for Scardina, excuse me. And coverage of the NCAA championships continues. Men's College Cup final Sunday, December 12th, 2 p.m. Eastern, ESPNU. Clemson will be playing the winner of this game here. For more information on the NCAA Men's College Cup, log on to ncaa.com, the official online home for all 90 NCAA championships. Bobby Clark obviously coached Notre Dame, as mentioned before. He coached Chad Riley, who's the Notre Dame coach now. Back in the late 2000s, I think the only championship back in 2013. Ball goes out. Coached his son, Jamie. Stanford is an All-American. also on the bench at Washington. Coach Brian Weiss at Dartmouth. And Weiss went after becoming a mechanical engineer major, and then went to Stanford and got his grad degree in mechanical engineering, which is bananas to me. And on the staff at Notre Dame. So this is the Bobby Clark influence. All these teams play differently. I was interested in the coaches both said we all play differently, but the values as being educators and teaching them the team first, the press first, and all the different values they learn, those are all within all these programs, all three of them.
Funny from a recruiting standpoint as well, how they go about it different ways. You still get quality product on the field. You got the UW team that, as you mentioned, takes so much pride in their city and the friendly confines around them. Georgetown, they're not shy. They want the best players in the country. They want the national team prospects, the guys who are going to be, those top 10 players and draft picks and what have you.
Well, that was interesting too. Yeah, Jamie Clark says we don't want great players. We want guys that want to be here for multiple years and grow here, and we want guys that fit us and have that like local flavor more than just taking. We don't want top 10 recruiting classes. We want top 10 players, top 10 guys.
Yep.
They develop into Georgetown. Brian, we said, hey, we want great players too. We don't necessarily want one and dones. We want guys who want to be pros, but maybe over a couple of years, like this guy Dante Polvara. But we want guys that want to be here and be part of the program. So in that regard, it's somewhat the same, but very different in terms of who they're targeting at a young age.
Given the way the college landscape is too, because of a lot of these guys and their affiliations at the youth level. Talked about the NYCFC players and what they've been able to do in their careers so far. At any given moment, those clubs can come calling, and so you have to set yourself up if you're a coach where Jacob Montez, midfielder of the year in the Big East, he takes off, gets the opportunity to go across the pond with Crystal Palace on loan, of course, now. But if he leaves, who's next up? Well, the understudy was Dante Polvara.
Yeah.
Right now, his understudy, Joe Buck. So there is a line of sequence there that does give you the opportunity, if someone steps off, to still have success. But to your point, the question is whether or not those guys are actually bought in. 100% yes for Georgetown over the past couple of years.
No doubt will become an absolute powerhouse in the national landscape, the expectations. Becoming a blue blood, if you will. Polvara tries to dink it over to Riviere. 20 seconds left. And Meek's got some space. Over to Tevez with 10. He's got space.
8, 7, 6, 5, 4.
Balls for Soto. First time shot.
1.
And we go into the break 0-0.
Given the way the first half went down, with that matchup on the right-hand side, if Washington's willing to say to you, come attack us here, which right now, Georgetown has had some freedom on the right, keep going that way, because here's what ends up happening. You show a tendency, and all of a sudden, you flip the script, you go the other direction, right? They're a bit predictable in their build in the first half for the Hoyas. They'll make that change. The problem for the Washington Huskies is defensively, as good as they were, in order to maintain a presence up top, at some point in time, one of your strikers